I remember back in the great days of my childhood where accessing the internet was an event, an incredible journey into this futuristic world that could show almost everything you could imagine. Videos, online shopping, and even playing online video games.
Probably most kids in the late 2000s, like myself, didn't really have a way to access the internet back then. For me, when I did have the opportunity, whether it was to watch YouTube videos or play online games, it was either at school, whenever the teachers weren't paying attention, or whenever I'd go to my local library and play some games until it was time for me to go home.
Even back when I was younger, I only had a couple game consoles and very little games for them. I didn't have the vast majority or variety of games to choose from like I do now. Heck, I still remember wanting a Nintendo DS back when it first came out when my friends had them, but my parents could never afford one for me. So my only options at home were my current game consoles or the DirecTV Game Lounge. Remember that? That was very cool back then. So ever since I was in school, probably around 5th or 6th grade and so on, I always liked playing Flash games. I'd access them through Newgrounds, Game Ninja, Silver Games, Addicting Games, and I even had the option to play them on Cool Math Games if you were that person. Games that were either something created by independent creators or even unofficial fan games used from video game properties like Mario and Sonic, for example. Lots of games I discovered on my own, and others are some fun games my friends showed me. Most of them can't even be accessed anymore, and it didn't help that the death of Adobe Flash Player happened toward the end of 2020, which meant no access to most Flash games or video players that required Flash to be used. This was an unfortunate way the future was changing for us, and hearing this kind of news devastated me, because I wouldn't be able to go back and play all these nostalgic games or videos. But it is what it is, because everyone around the world had smartphones now and had moved on to other things by then. There was no reason to access most of these Flash games anymore, which is quite sad.
But I figured I should go back and see if I could still play some of my favorite childhood Flash games, just to see if they still hold up. Of course, with Flash being dead, most of the Flash games aren't really accessible anymore, but thankfully, thanks to an alternative called Ruffle, we might be able to.
Also, I would talk about some other Flash games like the ones from children's programming, such as Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, PBS Kids, and other ones like Garfield Flash games and Lego games and such. But there's a lot of games I played on those particular ones, so maybe we could save that for another video, because I'd love to go back on my memories of playing Garfield Scavenger Hunt, especially Lego Star Wars The Quest for R2-D2. Anyway, let's get to playing. Probably one of my most fond memories of a Flash game I've played for hours was Super Mario 63. This was the closest experience I had to playing Super Mario 64 since I didn't have a Nintendo 64 at the time. The game was a 2D side-scroller with graphics ripped right from Mario & Luigi's Superstar Saga, and taking elements both from Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Sunshine, like the Flood and Shine sprites. It was even one of the few Flash games that also had a save file. Some of the stages are quite similar to Super Mario 64, and even most of the music was ripped right from that and other Mario games. I always enjoyed playing this game, and it was always a challenging task to get shine sprites and star coins, and even beating Bowser was a learning experience. I've never beaten the game, but I always just messed around and always explored the many places of this game because it was just such an endless maze. I feel like I needed a map or something. Plus, it didn't help how most games had this weird control switched around where the arrow keys had the move controls on the right and the action buttons to the left, so I had to switch my hands around. I was just always used to the normal video game controller layout. My classmates always thought it was weird doing that, as if they hadn't already knew that. Another Mario Flash game I remember playing every now and then was Mario Combat. It's not like an average Mario platform, instead Mario learns martial arts and beats the crap out of Koopas and even Bowser. But Bowser can be a little tricky to beat, especially when he spits out 1 billion fireballs. Although Super Mario Flash had the most generic Mario Flash name, it was another game I played for hours. Even though it has its own pre-made levels with its style like Super Mario 3 and graphics ripped right from Mario All-Stars, you can also make your own Mario levels. Yes, this was the days before Super Mario Maker. Even if it's not as expansive as Mario Maker, it was still fun to make your own weird, crazy levels or even make them just to troll your friends. One unique Mario game I played every now and then was Bullet Bill 3, even though I never played the first two. You use the mouse to maneuver the bullet bill and you can destroy objects and enemies in your path, but you'll have to avoid actual platforms or else you'll start over. But you do get checkpoints and you can even take out the Koopalings as a boss fight. If you hit enough enemies to fill the meter at the top, you can slow down time. Also, if you manage to find the hidden bonus levels, you can fight Boom Boom and unlock other characters like Neon Cat and Guile's Sonic Boom from Street Fighter. This was always a fun and interesting game that got more and more tricky over time. Even though I've had fond memories of those Mario Flash games, the one I think was the best ones was definitely Super Mario Crossover. Unfortunately, I can't play him because it doesn't work like it used to on Flash, but I'll try to show it as best as I can. Basically, you're playing the classic NES Super Mario Bros., and not only can you play as Mario, but you can also play as a variety of different Nintendo characters such as Link from Legend of Zelda, Bill from Contra, Simon Belmont from Castlevania, Samus from Metroid, and Mega Man. Just like the vanilla Super Mario, Mario's powers are the exact same with the Super Mushroom and the Fire Flower. But when the other characters obtain them, they are a bit different. Link's outfit changes color and is able to use a boomerang plus arrows and bombs, and if he ever gets the flower, he can even shoot out his sword. When Bill gets a mushroom, it just upgrades the gun, but when he gets the flower, it changes to the spread gun and his pants change to red. Simon Belmont's whip just changes whenever he gets power-ups and he can throw axes, but compared to every other character in this game, his jumping controls take some time to get used to, but on the plus side, he can double jump. Samus is somewhat on the same page, but when she gets power-ups, her projectile's range is longer and her suit changes too. When Mega Man gets power-ups, he regains his helmet, he can charge his arm cannon, and when he gets the Fire Flower, he gets a fire power-up. Although this version is a decent ROM, the sequels are far superior. With the second one, it expands the game a bit, adding new game skins from various sprites, especially around the 16-bit era, different music, and new characters like Luigi, Jason and Sophia from Blaster Master, Ryu from Ninja Gaiden, and Bass from Mega Man 7. Although this version was one I played quite a lot, the one I think was better was the third and latest version. The third Super Mario Crossover game adds even more character skin sprites, more sprite backgrounds, more characters, and even newer levels and unlockable cheats. I really wish I could play this game like I did back then, but it just seems that these games require some other readable file in order for it to load properly, which I don't have the capability of doing. I just wish this was a legitimate game I could play on my TV or on a portable console like my 3DS. Just like Mario, Sonic also had quite a majority of Flash games too. I didn't play a whole lot of Sonic Flash games like Mario, but one I do remember playing was Ultimate Sonic Flash, or Ultimate Flash Sonic. There's nothing too special about this game, but it's just a short generic Sonic platformer with sprites ripped right from Sonic Advance. However, you can unlock other characters and even some cheats to unlock with codes, mostly ones that are a bit silly looking.
Let's move on, please.
Remember all those Flash games that involve aerial skill? Well, one I remember playing was Learn to Fly. It's about a penguin wanting to learn to fly. Each time you slide off an iceberg, you earn money. And each time you earn money, you can buy smoother icebergs to slide off, a glider to fly longer, and a rocket and fuel to fly at a longer distance. It's a fun game, but I didn't care much for its sequel. Another game that's quite similar was one I played a few times, Potty Racers 2. I've never played Potty Racers 1 or any of the other sequels. For whatever reason, I stuck with this one. Basically, you use a porta-potty to fly across the water, and you can buy plane parts and fuel to get even further than you have. You can also buy tricks to do tricks in the air and earn extra points. The music was amazing, but after a while it does get a bit annoying after hearing it for so long. One nice touch is that whenever you crash land in the water, sometimes they play a funny animation to the pilot. Squirrel Fly was another game that was similar to the last two, and was another one that I played on GameNinja.com next to Super Mario 63. You can get all sorts of items to help you fly further than you have, and you can even buy things to help you upgrade and potentially get further. However, it does take quite a while. But watch out, there are some obstacles that can kill you too. Moving on to action games, one I remember playing a lot was a beat-em-up style game called Dad and Me. Some people might recognize this animation style as it's the same ones who created Alien Hominid. Basically, you beat up all these kids your size, and occasionally there's other kids that can fight back and deplete your health. One of the most annoying examples being these ninja twins. The final boss was always a pain to try and take out, and most times was really unfair because he uses a freaking gun and could do some breakdance kicking. If you do die, you don't get any checkpoints or continues, which really sucks. But it is rather short. Other than that, it's a fun game. But if you are just having one of those days and you feel like you want to break your computer, even though you can't afford to, you can play Bash the Computer endlessly. I guess you could say it's a fun stress reliever. Or we could always play the impossible quiz.
No!
Skull Kid was a weird one I remember playing a couple times. I know a handful of people have nostalgic memories about this game, but I didn't care for it much. Probably because I could never get past the second level when I was younger. That, and I just find the music eerily creepy when there's this weird kid wearing a skull mask just massacring people. Run is another one I remember seeing other classmates play. It was quite interesting just seeing your character jumping around and flipping the screen to walk on walls and avoid holes. I can see why people like this game. One game I can't access anymore was the Jeff Dunham Show game. Back when the comedian Jeff Dunham had his own show on Comedy Central, Jeff Dunham's website had a flash game where you could play as his dummy characters going around killing enemies and collecting body parts of other characters so you could play as them. Of course, with the website being updated quite a long time ago, the game is gone from history, but I still wish I could play it. Of course, I had no luck trying to find it on other websites. It's also really hard to find any pictures of it too. All I can find of it is just someone doing a let's play of the game on YouTube by recording their computer screen in very poor quality. Happy Wheels of course needs no introduction, everybody has seen it and knows what it is. To this day, it's still a lot of fun, despite it being very graphic with its violence, but it's still so much fun, especially with the user-created levels online. I also find it a bit amusing how all these empty spaces were intended for more characters and they still haven't been filled. Just like Happy Wheels, I'm sure the Henry Stickman games also need no introduction. I remember playing these games a lot when I was young. I was always anticipated and waited for the next game to come out. Breaking the bank, escaping the prison, stealing the diamond, infiltrating the airship, and fleeing the complex. They always showed different results, different endings, and had so much replay value just to see the different outcomes. The animations were hilarious and incredible to watch. Of course, after Flash was dead, the series was given a revised purchasable edition on Steam called the Henry Stickman Collection, basically updating all the games to a more modern look and with no way in using copyrighted materials or characters from other video games, but also adding a new game completing the mission. These games were always a blast to play. Now, of course, with me being a hardcore Godzilla fan, I do have to bring up Godzilla Kaiju Battle. It's a 2D fighting game that all G fans can appreciate. It's in a similar style to the one-on-one fighting mode on Godzilla Monster of Monsters on NES, but it includes great character animation with a vast majority of different kaiju characters and variations. The music is very faithful to the movies and it's a lot of fun. You can even play as characters that never made a video game appearance with Godzilla like Wolfman, Gabara, Gorosaurus, Zone Fighter, and King Kong. Now for all the Family Guy fans and to that one person who watches American Dad, you can play as your favorite characters and fight each other in a style like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. Funny thing is too, you can even play as Ryu from Street Fighter, but just like Mortal Kombat, there are some complicated combo moves to remember in order to pull off powerful attacks. One funny part is how Chris is pretty useless as most of his basic attacks just beat himself up. One of the more fun arcade Flash games I played was Miami Shark. Basically, you play as a shark in Miami, destroying boats, ships, and you can even launch yourself to grab planes and other aircrafts to destroy even more people. You can even eat scuba divers, dolphins, ducks, and people swimming for their life. Apparently there are other sequels that are similar, like Sydney Shark, LA Shark, New York Shark, Prehistoric Shark, and Medieval Shark. Jeez, it's sounding like all those thousands of cheap shark movies that are all complete garbage. Since we're still floating in the water, let's talk about Raft Wars. This game was a fun strategy shooter where you play as two kids defending their gold they found on a beach. You shoot at pirates, Vikings, thugs, and even your neighbors by shooting them with your Nerf-like guns. When you get money, you can get another playable character, upgrade to a larger raft, and even get different ammunition like grenades and rockets. It must have been popular enough to get its own sequel. It's not too different, as the exact same sprites and animation are used again, but in this one, you can also upgrade to armor, and you can choose an ammunition type to shoot 3 projectiles at once. Both games are quite fun and do require some skill.
So those are a big handful of Flash games that I played from my childhood. I love these games and it's great to go back to them every now and then. Of course, there is still a lot more Flash games out there, like all the, childhood programming Flash games like Cartoon Network and such. But if you guys want me to talk about that, just let me know. Other than that, that's pretty much it. So what were your guys' favorite Flash games as a kid? Did you play these at home, at a friend's house, or did you play them at school like you weren't supposed to and then the teacher caught you? Like I did.